So, Channel Awesome's Walter is doing a monthly, not monthly, but daily retrospective throughout this month on Batman the Animated Series. Basically touching upon certain episodes that he considers some of the best, if not some of the more controversial, if not strangest ones out there. And today, the episode he talked about, which surprised me as exactly of when it aired, is the season 1 episode Tyger, and that's Tiger with a Y, not an I. And this is based off two premises. One, it's based, if not inspired, by the classic sci-fi story, The Island of Dr. Moreau, and it's inspired, title-wise, for the episode, by the poem The Tyger. Now, in case you guys don't know what The Island of Dr. Moreau is, short story real quickly. Basically, it's a story about a scientist that has a secluded island in which he lures people to it and basically experiments on them and turns them into hybrid animal-human animalmorphics, if you will. Basically, turning them into, animalmorphic creatures based on like what animal they could relate to more so than, any other. And in the case of Tyger, the doctor in this episode basically does this to Selena. Long story short, Selena, for a lot of you that have probably seen this episode or know about it, Selena gets captured, taken to this secluded island, and the doctor there experiments on her and turns her into a literal Catwoman. That's right. For those of you that may have not seen the episode that much, or even have seen it, or heard about it at least, and wonder where this image of Selena came from, and why people called this Selena, or called this Catwoman as a Catwoman, that's why. But, here's the biggest question though. Why is Tyger so mixed, if you will, when it comes to reaction by the fans? Because honestly, there's some fans that do like it, and there are some that don't. But the one common agreement that they have is whether they like it or they don't like it. One thing they do agree upon is to just let it be. In other words, whether you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it, after it's all said and done, just let it be. Let it be its own thing and move on and act like it's not there. Why is that, a common agreement, among those that both like it and don't like it? Well, I think it's really obvious as to why that is. You see, basically when it comes to Batman the Animated Series, or Batman TAS, this is a story that's not commonly seen or associated in the eyes of a fan or a viewer when it comes to Batman, especially coming off the Batman live-action films of '89 and 1992. So this is something that's not commonly associated in the eyes of some fans when it comes to Batman. Even though they know that Batman in the movies and in the comics has dealt with strange stuff before, this is something that obviously is, not supposed to be in a show like Batman the Animated Series. But yet, here it is. And I think the other reason why it gets such a mixed reaction to where, like I said, those that like it, are in agreement with those that don't like it by basically acting like, it doesn't exist. Like, okay, you can like it, but just, don't mention it ever again, or don't act like it's part of the show whatsoever. The reason they do that, again, like I said, is mainly the first season of Batman was to help establish who the character was. Help establish who he was to those that might be new to him, as well as establish his world. Because Batman, in a way, even though dealing with strange anomalies and, creatures and people throughout his history, 80-plus history that is, Batman, in the eyes of a lot of diehard fans and purists, has always been someone that, even though he's a DC fictional superhero, is somewhat set in reality, and being an almost close to reality hero is someone that shouldn't be dealing with, sci-fi stuff or be associated with it. And yet, like I said, throughout his 80-plus history, we've seen that. But this is Batman the Animated Series, and in its first season, a season that a lot of fans feel should be utilized to, kind of introduce us to the world of Batman, those that might be new to it, as well as basically establish who's the villains, who's the heroes, who's the anti-heroes, who can be trusted, who cannot be trusted. An episode like Tyger just throws things off. Like, although the story itself can be enjoyable, and overall the episode itself can be enjoyable, it's like one of those episodes that you feel is not canon whatsoever. It's kind of like with Star Trek Voyager. You know, you got that episode where basically you have one of the characters temporarily turn into a lizard because of warp speed, and thus basically de-evolve, re-evolve, whatever, and thus he takes Captain Janeway and does the same thing to her, and the ending is both them being found on a planet, a swamp-like planet, basically, you know, as complete lizards, evolved lizards or whatever, that, you know, it reveals to us Janeway gave birth to kids that they have to leave behind because they have to basically take the captain and the other crew member back up to the Voyager to restore them. It's like that kind of an episode to where there's people that like it because of its strangeness and its uniqueness and it's like out of contextness. But then there are those that don't like it, but both are in agreement, both sides are in agreement, or even along with the cast and crew, but as fans, they're both in agreement, those that liked it and those that didn't like it, that it's one of those episodes that you don't consider non-canon. They're basically in the same category as the cast and crew, like it's part of the episode, it's part of the series run, but it's like a one-shot non-canon episode. That's how a lot of fans, both that liked it and didn't like it, feel about Tyger. That it's an episode that, although it's part of the Batman animated series run, it's considered a one-shot non-canon because it's something that they feel doesn't really belong in Batman the Animated Series. With all the stories that have come before it and all the stories that have come after it, they feel it's something that doesn't belong there. Even though they have seen fair share of characters being turned into creatures accidentally or whatever the case may be, they just feel like this one just does not belong in the category of being a chronological episode of Batman the Animated Series, and that it's a non-canon, you know, continuity, non-canon, one-shot episode that you could just be like, yeah, that's the black sheep, if you will, no offense, of the Batman Animated Series continuity, episodic continuity. In other words, it's something that we don't really talk about that much because we consider it non-canon. We consider it just a one-shot deal and that's it. And here's the thing, that might be the case because we've never seen Tyger show back up anymore. We've never seen the doctor behind it show up anymore. You know, we haven't seen any acknowledgement or reference to it. Heck, even when Selina gets restored, there's no acknowledgement of her time in any future episode of her being an actual Catwoman. So, to kind of say that maybe this falls in that category would be an understatement. Because it seems that it seems to be heading in that direction. But overall, when I look at Tyger, like anybody else, you know, even Walter at Channel Awesome, I consider it one of those kind of episodes that's just, you know, it's just there. And it does fall under the category of being something that, you know, could be considered somewhat in the same category, you know, of the episode Threshold of Star Trek Voyager, where basically because it was so out there and so out of context and strange, you know, and everything, that even the cast and crew, didn't want to associate it as being continuity based or part of the canon. You know, some would probably say Tyger falls into that same category with Batman the Animated Series. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on Tyger as a whole? Do you think, you know, it deserves the reputation being similar to the reputation that Threshold of Voyager gets? Or do you think maybe it's just one of those things that does, you know, kind of fall under that category of, you know, it may not be as disdained or hated by everybody, including the cast and crew, but it is one of those that needs to, you know, kind of fall into the category of non-canon one-shot stories. What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you. And I am out.